Hey, it's Jonathan Farmer here, and this is my review for Shopify Freedom course by Dan Vas, and this will be broken down into 3 sections because this is my third time recording this dumb video. The first is my mindset and kind of what led me to buy it. The second is actual course content, pros and cons. And third, whether I think it's worth your time or not, and the tools that you'll probably need in addition to this to succeed. So number one, mindset, how I came to find out about Dan Vas. Was primarily from YouTube. And kind of how I came to find him was through Tai Lopez.
Knowledge.
If you're not familiar with him, he's a internet marketing guru type of guy, kind of like Grant Cardone. So some history about me is I kind of came from Kindle publishing through a couple courses, 3 courses in there. Didn't work out so much. Then I found Tai Lopez about a year and a half ago, or a year ago. It's hard to remember at this point in time. But I did that. I bought his SSMA course, which is social media marketing. Got halfway through it, never actually finished it. Decided I didn't really want to trade my time for money. And then I also bought his ecom course as well. I don't remember what it's called. But just to prove that I do have it. Oh yeah, and then I also have his ecom ad agency as well, or ecom agency. Yeah, his e-commerce blueprint, and then I also social media marketing and etc. So I actually did go through all of the e-commerce one, and I felt like I needed more information to win, at least with Shopify. So like, the main problem I have with this course, it's really good. Don't get me wrong, it's really, really good. But the problem with it is I think the problem with some of Ty's courses is, Ty's not an expert in everything, right? Like he knows a couple of things really, really well, or a couple areas. So he brings people that are the best in the field that he can find to come have them teach, right? Gather experts in their respective fields, which makes sense. But, the e-commerce blueprint is kind of it's not just dropshipping. It's dropshipping, I'd say it's 65 to 70% of it. But like the problem is, you have these guys over here like the Samir and Juan. Right, I'm not going to really show any more of this. I don't want to get in trouble. But, there's other people in the course as well that, do Amazon private labeling. They're completely against just drop shipping. And then you have people that do print on demand, which is like, print t-shirts and stuff like that, mugs, etc., handbags. And they're between those like 3 and 4 viewpoints are kind of conflicting strategies and conflicting opinions and information on what direction to go. And so what Ty's thing gives you, it kind of gives you a basis foundation for how a lot of it works, like different things like Amazon private labeling, even though he has an entire course in that. Kind of how dropshipping works is the main focus point of that. And then it's also, like I said, scattered opinions by different people can be very confusing. So I was looking for a course that was more in line from one person, how they made it. And then I found Sky Hills' course, which is more of a beginner step-by-step, and I really liked him because he kind of came from the same background as me. Took the SSMA course, decided he didn't really want to trade his time for money, and online business, more specifically like e-commerce, is more for him. And so that's what I pivoted towards. And then I found Dan Vas a couple years ago, and I've wanted to, get his Amazon course for a while, but never did because Amazon kind of requires a lot of money up front, which I didn't really have. And the thing I liked about drop shipping, specifically with Dan, was that, the whole drop shipping thing is you don't pay for inventory until the customer pays for it. It's a couple $100 to set up. And so I've been following Dan for a while, like I said, and then as soon as he announced this course, I got it immediately, as soon as I could afford it. So, like I said, that's kind of some history about me, about where I've come from in terms of courses and what I've tried. Now the mindset of kind of how I got into his course, it's kind of my mindset where that came from. Now the second part of this video, what you can actually get with this. So I see there's a couple pros and cons to this course. No one's perfect. And one thing that I will say about a lot of these courses that you'll see is what really sold me on getting this Shopify Freedom course was that some of the people in the Facebook group that I talked to for his Amazon course, I found someone from the SSMA group that was also in that, and he hooked me up with some of the people in there. But one thing that really stuck out to me was that his Amazon course, someone said that he re-recorded all the videos and put them in HD, which to me speaks quite volumes of, I think, Dan's commitment to that course and making people succeed. Because like, who does that? You know, like, you have all this stuff that you've already made that's making you money on a course. Like, why would you bother re-record it at all? They just didn't have to. And so anyway, so this course is a little different from his Amazon one because it's a different beast. Now, what I will say also about this course is that it's marketed towards beginners, like a one-stop shop, and with Dan's mentorship, and that's not entirely the case, I find. And I'll get to that in a second by what I mean by that. But first off, the mentorship isn't really, you know, video calls like one-on-one with him. It's more, it's what it is in the course, it says if you message him in a particular way, that's the only way that he responds to you. Like, he doesn't respond to anything else. So it's really, and from other people that I've talked to, it seems to be kind of a yes and no. But, you know, that also makes sense. Like, you got to remember that Dan also has an Amazon course with thousands of people in it. You know, so that makes sense that he keeps it very short and to the point, you know, because there's a lot of people, like thousands of people, I think, in his Amazon course. From what this one person in that group was telling me and showed me. You know, and in addition to this, so it's not just like this is his first course, it's his second one. So I imagine he's quite busy with that. And so what I mean by this is marketed towards beginners, but isn't really. And this is something I've kind of found with a lot of other courses, is it's like this. So if you've never picked up any business books or watched really any YouTube on kind of how the, like, Ty Lopez or Grant Cardone kind of do their, like, you know, where they mention like advanced business tactics or stuff like that. Like, for instance, when you're marketing on Facebook ads, like, if you've never really watched any of those videos on how to, like, do the stuff that you kind of need to do, you know, so, like, say for instance, like customer avatar is a great example. If you have no concept of this course has a lot of concepts that are going to kind of go over your head, and they take, at least for me, they took about like a week to sink in when I first learned them, like hearing them over and over, constantly being reinforced. And so this course has a lot of information overload, I think, and so you don't really get to progress, you know, unless you're already familiar with the concepts, unless you're already familiar with it. So, but I think that's indicative of really any course that kind of has, you know, fluff like this. Like, Dan really wants you to win, so he doesn't have any BS in his videos. Like, he might talk for a couple extra minutes on a point to kind of reinforce it, but like, that's about it. Like, it's right there about what you need. The other thing is Dan shows you kind of what to do from an idea standpoint and how you need to win, which is really helpful. And then he shows you like an example of it, but not maybe necessarily do X, Y, Z. Now, don't get me wrong. He does do that on some of the on quite a bit of the material, but there's kind of some gaps in there where he kind of says, oh, you need to do X, Y, Z, and then kind of tells you how it's done, and then kind of does it really quick, but it doesn't. Like, if you're a complete beginner and you've never done it, like I built like 3 or 4 Shopify stores. You know, they have not really taken off for any of them. And so, you know, I like the basic stuff, like getting your website set up, you know, talking to, you know, finding suppliers on AliExpress, Baba, you know, that stuff is like, it's pretty ingrained into my head at this point, you know, by the 4th iteration of it. Like, I think I know where the settings button is, you know. But like I said, if you're new, that can probably be a problem for you and a slowdown because you're just getting over that hump. So, like, your first thing will probably not work out so well, but that's okay. As long as you're willing to keep trying and make it work, you'll be fine. And another thing is that's a little kind of inconsistent is like you need a couple $100 to $1,000. And I sat down and did some back of the napkin math, and for all these different plugins and things that he suggests, you're probably gonna need somewhere more around like $800 to $600 to $800, not the $200 to start like he suggests. I mean, yeah, you can maybe get away with some of that, if you make sales, if you cut some corners here or there, but I don't know. Another con, I think, with this is also, like I said, if you've never really gone through and you're not, oh yeah, so another thing is the mindset stuff, and I think that you really do need the mindset to win. So like what I'm talking about is like the mindset that you need to win with Shopify. So Dan is really, really heavy on mindset, and I think that, oops, I don't want to show that, my bad. I think that that's super, super important. But if you're not already familiar with like a lot of self-help already, like if you've not read Rich Dad Poor Dad, or what is it like? Look at this. Yeah, so like Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill, The Millionaire Fast Lane Unscripted. Like I've read a lot of these, right? Like the 10X Rule is a really good book. If you're not already familiar with what he's talking about, it's gonna, his mindset module kind of comes off as gibberish and kind of just, he's just telling you stuff, and it doesn't feel like that great. But the thing about it is that's probably the most important part of it. But he's so familiar with it himself. I think, like, I find myself doing this quite a bit. Is, I'm trying to tell somebody something, and he's so excited and he wants you to win that it just kind of sounds like he's preaching at you, and you just kind of tune it out. And so, I think that's one part that can be improved. Now, mind you, there also is the Millionaire Mindset Secrets down here that I have not gotten to yet. So that could be, way better explained in there. I've only gotten through 75% of it, so there is that. But that's pretty much it for cons. Is maybe some of the, oh yeah, so like he takes you 95% of the way, or 90% of the way to where you need to be. Like this, there's a lot of stuff in here that's kind of mind blowing that I've not heard on YouTube. That's for sure. So it's kind of for the pros. So I mentioned a lot of cons, and I wouldn't let that dissuade you from ultimately letting that be the purchasing decisions. Because you can kind of learn this in time as you like do it, right? So, but the big thing here that separates this from all the other courses I've taken, like even some of the stuff in Ty Lopez's stuff isn't here, is this takes you pretty much everything that you need to start a 7 or 8 figure business, which he's actually done, right? So like a lot of these people who are doing courses, they'll say how they made 200 grand or, 6 figures. And that's kind of like the extent of like the height of what they've reached. Like even this guy, I think it's Gabriel. I don't remember the guy's last name on YouTube. He's a big dropshipper. Really good videos. Like his biggest store, I think he did was like $1 million in revenue. Not profit, mind you. Now Dan's done, this guy has done like 10 million. Yeah, like, he's kind of a humble dude, and you wouldn't really, think of it, he's gotten to like this 10 times what some of these other people on YouTube are doing, right? Like, it's insane. Like 10 million, like what the heck? And so a large part of that is, he has a really, like a drive to do things, and he reads a boatload of books. I think that's what separates him from a lot of these other people. He's constantly reading and evolving. And one criticism I constantly saw on his reviews of an Amazon course was that some of the techniques or whatever didn't work. But like what you got to understand with Dan is like if you actually go like watch all of them, like he's re-recorded his entire archive at least once for that course and then added more. So the reviews from like a year ago in 2018. Around August, this is this is May 30th. So, that was like a year ago. So what you got to understand was if you listen to his backstory, he wasn't an entrepreneur until like 3 years ago. Like, he's rapidly evolving. And so the older he gets, if he continues this, crazy pace of reading 180 books a year, I don't know how the guy did it, honestly. He's going to accrue another, more knowledge as he grows older. And so, like, even now for the, pardon me, he just uploaded this. What is it? It's, store automation and scaling. This wasn't here, when I first joined the course. It said, like, uploading or something. So he's still, like, uploading to it. And I believe him when he says that he will continue to upload more as he maintains it more. But, like I said, the big thing is he's done, like, 10 million. So this is really a one-stop shop for what you need to win with Shopify. And the big thing I've not seen, pardon me, any of the other people really talk about in their courses, even with Tai Lopez's or any of his, except maybe in the SSMA program, there's a little bit of it, but not a whole lot. And that's how to kind of negotiate with people, specifically suppliers on AliExpress. And so it's kind of interesting because he's like, you need to know the culture a little bit, right? And so negotiating with your suppliers can get you half the price versus a lot of these drop shippers, you just pay the price on AliExpress and you just, it's more structured and how to win. Like, it's all here, but some of that you're going to maybe, he shows you kind of how to do it, and then you kind of got to go figure it out on your own, but you kind of know generally what to do. I have to blur this out, unfortunately. Darn it. But, yeah, so for the final part of this, is it worth your money? And I would say hands down, yes. Of all the, 8 courses I've taken, there's some I haven't even mentioned I've taken in here. I've spent thousands of dollars. This is probably the best one, I would say, for Shopify so far. Like, there's just a lot of stuff in here, especially with the Facebook ads that are really, really good that you don't hear from other places. Now, when Dan says it's the best Facebook training on the planet, I wouldn't say that that's necessarily true, because there's a couple other Facebook courses I've taken, or at least looked at from other people that have, done more than him. And, like Claus's is really good. Klaus, what's the guy's name? He did Dan Locke's social media marketing. He was on Dan's channel a while back. I don't remember the guy. It's like Klaus something or other. I can't remember the guy's name. But his free stuff on his YouTube channel is kind of equivalent to what Dan has here, and it's more broad. Like, it's more applicable than to just selling products on here. So it's not the best, but in terms of Shopify ads, this is probably the best in that sense. But it's not like the flat out best in the world. Like, I've seen better. But in terms of how to build an e-commerce brand, this is, like I said, probably some of the best I've seen so far in my limited course taking. I'll definitely be using this. Like one thing that's kind of really stood out to me from this course versus Tai Lopez's and even Scott Hilsey's course that I've taken is that this really highlights to me like what I did wrong with 3 of my other stores and kind of what I need to do to fix them. So that was really, really helpful. Like, insanely helpful. And so once I get kind of some more money to roll with this, because I have some bills and life stuff, I'm going to get rolling with this a bit more seriously in a couple weeks. I just don't really have the funds to implement a lot of his stuff here, because it's more cash heavy, I guess, in this, but like has a higher chance of success. So we'll see how that goes, and I'll definitely be uploading a updated review on it, if this stuff works. But I'm pretty confident that this will work. So I fully think it's worth your money, but then again, take that with a grain of salt from me, because I've been following Dan for like a year and a half, 2 years almost, since 2017. So I'm probably slightly biased towards this course, but I think it's really good, especially if you actually follow the books and do what he says. I think that's like necessary, like almost a must. to succeed, because without the mindset, you're not going to win. Like, that's flat out. Like, that's how that works. And this video is like 20 minutes already, so yeah, that's my review. Get yourself some knowledge.